In the vast broken landscape of the lands between, where golden leaves shed like tears from a dying tree and the very air is filled with the weight of ancient secrets, there is a question that has enticed lore lovers ever since the first tarnished stepped upon these accursed shores. It is a question that goes to the very center of Elden Ring's cosmic mythology, forcing our perception of divine power, cosmic purpose, and the very nature of existence itself. Are the outer gods embroiled in endless competition, each desperately trying to overcome the others and control over a shattered world? Or is something much more sinister afoot behind the scenes, a master plot in which so-called enemies are perhaps even unthinking agents in some vast, ungraspable plan? Today we set out on a journey that will lead us from the primal oneness of the One Great to the sprawling wars that war across multiple dimensions of being. We'll scrutinize the evidence with the scholarly eye of a scholar examining old texts, trying to construct shards of truth from item descriptions, environmental lore, and the enigmatic words of characters who give speeches in half-truths and riddles. The outer gods of Elden Ring are not simply background figures in this grand story. They are the designers of reality itself, the string pullers behind a cord that reaches across millennia, manipulating such mundane things as the birth of demigods and the very laws of life and death. Knowing their dynamics, their agendas, and their final motivations is important in grasping the greater significance in every quest, every boss fight, and every heart-wrenching tale that plays out upon this wondrous, sorrowful world. But these creatures are beyond mortals' ordinary understanding. They move in terms of time and intent that overwhelm human minds, expressing themselves through avatars, champions, and sophisticated religious orders that last across centuries. Their power permeates all of life in the lands between, from the golden glory that directs the tarnished to the scarlet blight that consumes whole provinces, from the maddened fire that promises to incinerate all pain, to the black moon that provides chilly solace in an uncertain era. What makes this inquiry so intriguing is that the evidence points in several directions at once. For each moment that we witness evident antagonism between these celestial forces, we discover just as compelling instances of cooperation, absorption, or unification. The very essence of divinity within Elden Ring appears to confuse opposition and unity, proposing that our human conception of conflict and alliance is inherently insufficient in relation to entities of such monumental scale and strength. Look, if only for a moment, at how complex what we're handling truly is. We've got the greater will, which broke the original One Great and now wants to preserve order through its golden order. We've got the frenzied flame, who would gladly incinerate all back into oneness. We've got the scarlet rot, who creates decay and rebirth. We've got the formless mother, who hungers for wounds and blood. We have the different moons that set the destinies of sorcerers and lead them to an era of stars. We have the fell god, whose fire is capable of scorching even the earth tree itself. We have the death god, whose control over ghost flame and fated death goes back to the present age. Each of them has its own agenda, its own idea for how reality should be organized, its own idea of what the ideal state of being is. But they all exist within the same cosmic structure, all tap into the same ultimate sources of power. They all appear to be converging on endpoints that, from one vantage, may not be as antithetical as they might seem at first blush. The traditional interpretation is that these gods are engaged in a cosmic conflict, each attempting to exert its will over the lands between, destroying or enslaving its opponents. Examples of direct conflict abound throughout the history of the game. The larger will's conflict with the fire giants, the sealing of the god of rot, the repression of fated death, the persecution of the followers of the maddening flame, the entanglement between the Golden Order and the Academy of Raya Lucaria, all indicate a reality in which divine forces are inherently opposed to each other. There are, however, as compelling arguments to suggest more than that reality. The fire monks, who are the servants of the Golden Order, introduce the energy of the fell god into their spells. The union of Radagon and Ranella is a union of the greater will and the energy of the full moon. The very construction of the Elden Ring itself appears to draw elements from several cosmic sources, implying synthesis rather than domination. Most interesting of all, the discovery in Shadow of the Erd Tree that Miquella aimed to establish a new era by enchanting others and bringing together discordant groups under his divine power implies that the nature of godhood within this world is inherently one of unity and assimilation rather than mere conquest and desolation. The philological evidence is also compelling. The outer god used to describe the entity in Japanese, taken from translations of Lovecraftian works, indicates something that exists outside of regular reality but not necessarily hostile to each other. The fact that they are the One Great, from which everything supposedly sprang forth, would mean that these entities that appear distinct are but part of a larger whole instead of independent entities. That is where our inquiry really takes off. If the outer gods truly are pieces of the One Great, then their seeming conflicts could be more accurately seen as various facets of a single mind trying to reintegrate. Their rivalry could be cooperation from another perspective. Their wars could be negotiations. Their efforts to conquer the lands between could be efforts to establish the preconditions for eventual reunification. The data will be looking at runs from the macro level of cosmic mythology all the way down to the micro level of individual item descriptions and motivational backstories of characters. We'll be analyzing how these gods affect their champions, how they organize their religious orders, how they bring their power down to earth, and how they react to threats to their authority. We'll explore the Empyrean's role as conduits for god power and what it would mean for several outer gods to manipulate the same person at once. We'll explore the intricate interplay between order and chaos, synthesis and division, unity and diversity. Above all, we'll explore what this implies for how we can understand the Tarnished's path. If the outer gods are working together at all, then the player character becomes even more important. Instead of being a pawn in another's game, the Tarnished could be something entirely different. A creature with the ability to move past the constraints that hold even the gods themselves in place. The effects go far beyond mere lore interest. Exploring the actual nature of the outer gods' relationships clarifies the actual stakes of each ending, the actual significance of each decision, the inner meaning of each coalition and treachery that informs the story. It enables us to view the larger context behind the direct conflicts and struggles that comprise the gameplay experience. So let us proceed with this inquiry with open minds and meticulous attention to detail. Let us look at the evidence without prejudice, tracing the threads of connection wherever they may lead. Let us be willing to question our assumptions regarding the nature of the divine, competition and cooperation within one of the most complex and rewarding mythological frameworks ever devised in interactive entertainment. The question on our table is not necessarily whether the outer gods compete or cooperate. The issue is whether these principles, as we conceive of them, are sufficient to define the reality of cosmic beings whose lives span dimensions, ages and states of being beyond mortal understanding. The answer, we will find, could be compelling enough to lead us to reconceptualize our definitions of competition and cooperation altogether. The source of all things, the One Great. In order to grasp the character of the outer gods' relationships, we need to start from scratch with the cosmological basis that governs all life within the universe of Elden Ring, the One Great. This primordial substance is arguably the most important piece of evidence in establishing whether or not the outer gods are actually competing against each other or if their perceived disputes conceal a more profound, more fundamental state of unity. The concept of the One Great is primarily conveyed to us through Haida, a mysterious character who speaks on behalf of the Three Fingers and the Frenzied Flame. According to her revelations, all that there is came from the One Great. This simple statement carries profound implications for our understanding of cosmic hierarchy and divine relationships. If all that is came into being from one source, then competition versus cooperation assumes whole new meanings. In the cosmological framework of belief offered by followers of the Frenzied Flame, the Greater Will broke apart the One Great and created the variety of life and consciousness that defines this age. This fracturing birthed individual souls, independent existences, the ability to suffer, and what the Three Fingers consider a cosmic error that created suffering, despair, affliction, and curses. The words describing this occurrence imply great implications. The Greater Will shattered the One Great and not destroyed or replaced it. This might suggest that the resulting beings, perhaps even the outer gods themselves, may be fragments or facets of the original wholeness instead of entirely discrete creations, although this connection is not overtly established within the lore. Consider what this origin would mean. If the Scarlet Rot, the Frenzied Flame, the Formless Mother, the Several Moons, and even the Greater Will itself are all shards of the same UR entity, then their seeming hostilities could be said to be different aspects of the same consciousness struggling to rejoin itself. Their struggle for dominance over the land between could be less one of conquest and more one of reunion. The Frenzied Flame's true purpose refutes this assessment. Instead of looking to dominate its own in a variety of worlds, it is looking to burn everything away with the frenzied flame of chaos, ending fractures and birth. The literal description of ending fractures implies a want to fix rather than destroy, to bring together rather than dominate. The frenzied flame is not interested in dominating the fragments, but to eradicate the fragmentation itself. This is supported by the very basic laws that control reality in the world of Elden Ring. The law of regression shows that everything aches forever to come together, and the law of causality defines the bonds which make up the relationships between everything. These aren't abstract philosophical concepts. but rather are said to be basic forces that sculpt reality itself. The actual structure of the universe appears to be conducive to oneness and association, instead of eternal separation and strife. The paradox revealed by figures like Goldmask is highly apropos here. The Golden Order exists at once to unify everything together while preserving discrete relationships that are only possible between independent entities. This apparent contradiction might actually reflect the fundamental tension at the heart of existence itself. The drive toward unity inherited from the One Great, conflicting with the reality of fragmentation that characterizes the current age. Archaeological evidence throughout the lands between supports this interpretation of cosmic history. The primordial crucible, which had existed before the present era, was a place where all existence was one, where the differences that currently divide various modes of being were indistinct or non-existent. The Crucible Knights, who draw their abilities from this origin, are able to conjure parts of various beasts all at once, indicating an essential interconnectedness that goes beyond existing categorical definitions. The Glintstone Sorcerer's cosmic origin material offers a different insight into this ancient oneness. Their studies reveal that life started in the form of stardust, spawned out of this great tear. This scientific explanation of the One Great's tearing runs in harmony with the religious mythology presented by the madly burning flames followers. Both accounts are directed toward a cosmic phenomenon in which unity became diversity, simplicity turned to complexity, and peace turned into strife. But that's where the story gets really interesting. If the fracturing of the One Great was truly a mistake, as the desperate flame accuses, why has it not been reversed? The greater will, which supposedly led to this fracturing, has incredible power and has shown the potential to remold reality on a cosmic level. If the natural condition is unity and the aberration is diversity, why has the greater will not merely reversed its mistake? Perhaps the fragmentation wasn't really a mistake at all, but an essential phase in some grand cosmic plan. Maybe the division of the One Great into the many was meant to permit growth, development, and eventual willing reunification instead of fixed unity. Maybe the seeming competition of the outer gods is not competition at all, but a sophisticated form of cooperation to achieve a more advanced and stable state of unity than there was prior to the fracturing. This idea is supported by the theme of synthesis, which is woven through Elden Ring's mythology. The merger of Marika and Radagon, both sides of the same being, generates something more advanced and strong than either could have mustered alone. The union of Radagon with Ranilla temporarily combines the power of the greater will and the power of the full moon. Even the Elden Ring itself appears to be a union of multiple cosmic forces instead of the mere domination of a singular principle. The role of Empyreans in the cosmic drama becomes very important if one observes it through this perspective. These creatures, who can serve as vessels of divine power, may be attempts by the outer deities to establish cohesive entities that can bridge the divides between various cosmic factions. Marika herself illustrates the potential for this, existing both as a vessel for the greater will and as an individual agent who can resist that very will when called for. Curses that afflict Empyreans who are the product of unions such as Marika and Radagon carry possible new significance here. Instead of being mere punishments, these curses could be the result of the challenge inherent in trying to bring disparate cosmic forces together into a single individual, although the nature of such curses is not understood. Melania's scarlet rot and Mick-Ella's eternal youth may be symptoms of that complexity, but the interpretation exceeds that which the lore directly says. Mick-Ella's relevance in this story cannot be overstressed. His creation of unalloyed gold, being just to repel the effects of outer gods, indicates that there's an awareness that these beings may be acting contrary to good of the individual. But his subsequent announcement, as one who desires to enthrall and bring together all creatures beneath his divine power, is an alternate solution to the same basic issue: how to unite without losing the variety that provides meaning to life. The One Great idea also accounts for some of the more confusing features of the way outer gods exercise their influence. Instead of being totally different beings vying for scarce resources, they could be various aspects of one cosmic mind trying to manifest itself in different ways at the same time. This would account for the reason why their domains of influence sometimes intersect, why their abilities at times may be combined or united, and why their final objectives often tend to converge despite appearing to be in conflict. The persistence of certain patterns across different outer god traditions supports this interpretation. The emphasis on duality that appears throughout the mythology: 2 fingers and 3 fingers, twin moons, the law of regression, and the law of causality, Marika and Radagon, suggests that the fundamental structure of reality tends toward balance and complementarity rather than simple dominance and submission. Even the terminology employed to refer to the outer gods themselves gives away their very nature. They are invariably placed as being above or beyond the normal reality of the lands between, but this placement may be more appropriately considered temporal than spatial. They may be beyond the present age of fragmentation because they remember and contain the unity that came before it. That several of the outer gods can be active in a single person at the same time, as when we have characters who show signs of several divine influences at once, implies that these beings are not exclusive of one another in the manner that rival political factions would be. Rather, they could be complementary elements of a greater whole that exist and complement each other under the proper conditions. This of the one great as the basis of all of existence does not eliminate strife between the outer gods, but it does redefine that strife. Far from being inherent adversaries battling for mutually exclusive aims, they may instead be alienated kin grappling to come to terms with disparate remembrances of home, disparate visions of what oneness will resemble, disparate methods of mending the wounds inflicted by cosmological fracturing. The final question begged by the idea of the One Great is whether our present era of disunity and strife is a fleeting aberration or an enduring new reality. The evidence indicates that existence itself inclines toward reunion, that the energies which develop diversity from oneness are weaker than the energies that yearn to re-establish nexus and meaning. But the way back toward wholeness may be through stages of seeming competition and strife as various aspects of cosmic consciousness struggle to know themselves and one another. Knowing the One Great as the source of all being gives us an essential context in which to see all else we learn about the outer gods' interactions. It proposes that their seeming competition may be an integral part of a greater process of cosmic healing and reunification. It suggests that cooperation and conflict may not be mutually exclusive when applied to beings of such immense scale and complexity. As we continue on our investigation, this initial understanding will enable us to see patterns and relationships that would otherwise appear contradictory or unexplainable. The One Great sets the frame within which all other evidence has to be understood, the measure against which all assertions of competition or cooperation need to be judged. The Greater Will, the prime power, of all the outer gods that shape the lands between, the Greater Will is the most evident, the most actively engaged, and perhaps the most successful at making its vision of reality real. But its status as the dominant one provokes interesting questions regarding the nature of its interaction with other cosmic forces. Is the Greater Will a victor who has defeated its competitors, or is it a coordinator that tries to oversee a complicated system of divine forces for some greater end? The origin myth of the Greater Will, as we know it, places it as the agent that shattered the One Great and made the age of diversity and separation that we find ourselves in. This either cosmic vandalism or cosmic necessity, depending on how you look at it. That it came out of this fracturing, not as a destroyer but as an organizer, implies something other than mere hunger for domination. Since the very start, the Greater Will has shown a systematic aversion to chaos and randomness, and a liking for structure and order, and systematic government over mere arbitrary rule. It doesn't just impose its will by sheer power. Rather, it establishes complicated systems of intermediaries, representatives, and institutional forms with the intention to control reality according to its own principles. This method implies a being which appreciates delegation, cooperation, and systematic organization. The dynamics between the Greater Will and its major representatives tell us a lot about its way of operation. The two fingers are its messengers and interpreters, interpreting cosmic will into directions that mortal creatures are able to comprehend and obey. Meteor, the finger's mother, stands between the Greater Will and the two fingers, proposing an intricate hierarchical organization instead of active divine control in secular matters. Above all, the Greater Will does not try to govern outright. Rather, it gives mortal agents // 2013 initially, America, then potentially the tarnished // 2013 the role of vessels for its vision without removing their agency or decision-making ability. This is a highly developed understanding that successful governance involves willing cooperation as opposed to simple coercion. The Elden Ring itself exemplifies the Greater Will's method of managing the cosmos. Instead of a mere instrument of control, the Elden Ring is an intricate system for encoding and enforcing the basic principles that construct reality. It can be changed, adjusted, and even broken, yet still serve its primary purpose as a structure for orderly existence. Such adaptability implies the Greater Will prefers stability and utility to hard and fast control. The Greater Will's interactions with the other outer gods show what seems like a pattern of synthesis and assimilation, not mere conquest. Look at its treatment of the Fell God's ability. Instead of destroying the Giants' flame entirely after the war with the Giants, the Greater Will's armies assimilated aspects of this power into their own faith in the form of the Fire Monks. These Golden Order servants employ spells that tap power connected with the very flame which once risked consuming the Erd tree. The fire monks were originally tasked with watching over the sealed flame, but by item descriptions they were seduced by its power and started to venerate it from fear and respect. This is true in other relationships as well. The peace that was negotiated with the ancient dragons following their war so that dragon cult incantations could be tolerated alongside the Golden Order, the inclusion of glintstone sorcery as part of the wider scheme of cosmic lore, the short-term alliance with the full moon through the marriage of Radagon to Ranella. These might imply a cosmic force that occasionally draws useful concepts from other systems instead of eradicating them outright. The Greater Will's handling of the Academy of Raya Lucaria is probably the most obvious example of this strategy. Instead of destroying the Academy or prohibiting the practice of sorcery, the Greater Will's armies brought the institution under control while permitting it to continue its research and education. The interaction is portrayed as one of domination, not partnership, yet one of dominance that maintains and utilizes what it overcomes, not of eradicating it. This integrative method applies also to the Greater Will's interaction with individual Empyreans. Instead of formulating puppet gods who merely carry out its desire blindly, it chooses beings who have their own agency, intelligence, and ability to make independent choices. Marika's final rebellion against the Greater Will's desires shows that this system does allow for, and even seems to foster, creative tension between divine will and personal judgment. The richness of Marika's interaction with the Greater Will shows the mature level of divine rule in this world. She is at once vessel, interpreter, and possible adversary of the cosmic energy that blessed her. Her choice to break the Elden Ring is not a failure of the Greater Will system, but maybe an underlying feature, an adaptation mechanism and rebirth when established order is stale or detrimental. The Greater Will's reaction to the breaking also illustrates its methodology in cosmic administration. Instead of acting with direct intervention to recreate order using brute force, it instituted a multifaceted plan that included the return of the Tarnished, the leadership that was established by means of sites of grace, and the step-by-step recovery of the Elden Ring by personal effort and accomplishment. This suggests a cosmic force that respects solutions earned, not imposed. While what becomes of Marika herself afterward is unclear, she is seemingly trapped in the Erd tree, although whether this is a form of imprisonment, changing, or some other condition is not necessarily defined within the lore. What the connection is between the Greater Will and the Frenzied Flame is important in understanding how cosmic beings that originated from the same source would act upon one another. Instead of direct conflict, these two powers appear to be responses to the same basic issue: how to address the suffering and chaos that resulted from the breakup of the One Great. The Greater Will attempts to control and reduce the suffering by means of order and structure, while the Frenzied Flame attempts to eradicate it by reunification. The fact that Michaela's needle can repel the power of the Frenzied Flame implies that there are systems in the Greater Will for safeguarding people against cosmic powers they do not want to adopt. This is a high degree of regard for individual autonomy, even when that autonomy could be exercised in opposing the Greater Will's direct interests. The Greater Will's interaction with death and the rune of destined death also manifest another dimension of its integrative nature. Instead of eradicating death completely or letting it work uninhibited, the Greater Will integrated death into its universe while putting restrictions on its use. Removing destined death from the Elden Ring and placing it on Malekith indicates a nuanced comprehension that certain forces are too risky to destroy, but too valuable to leave out of commission. The resistance of those who dwell in death and the array of undead abominations within the lands between reveals that the Greater Will's grasp on death is not total. This may be a limitation of its strength, but it may also reflect a conscious decision to permit alternate modes of existence in place of imposing a universal model of life and death on every being. The Greater Will's interaction with the differing entities of the moons is possibly the best example of symbiotic coexistence among disparate outer gods. Radagon's marriage to Ranella formed a temporary but important connection between the Golden Order and full moon power. Even when this connection was terminated, the dynamics between these celestial forces were still complicated and not purely hostile. Ranni's ultimate decision to follow the Age of Stars is an inherent defiance of the Greater Will's authority, but the manner in which this conflict manifests is more a sign of advanced cosmic diplomacy than one-sided warfare. The Dark Moon which channels Ranni presents an alternative to cosmic chaos or destruction but instead a vision of cosmic order. Its aim appears to be creating freedom and uncertainty as opposed to eradicating order altogether. The Greater Will's seeming retreat from direct intervention in the lands between throughout the game raises significant questions regarding its long-term policy. The two fingers requirement to consult their patron for thousands or tens of thousands of moons in order to be guided regarding the sealed passage to the Erd tree implies that the greater will has consciously diminished direct involvement and preference for the passage of events through other channels. This recession may be a sign of weakness or distraction, but it could also be a reflection of faith that the mechanisms it has set are strong enough to run themselves even when not under immediate observation. The ongoing function of sites of grace, the survival of the Golden Order's fundamental frameworks, and the continued advising offered to the tarnished all indicate that the greater will's presence is still at work even when its immediate attention is diverted elsewhere. The greater will's modus operandi in shaping reality shows a mature appreciation for the fact that long-term cosmic order depends on the willing cooperation of several entities and not just the fiat of one will. Its tendency to absorb, integrate, and delegate indicates a cosmic being that has learned to cooperate with and operate through other forces instead of just overpowering them. This strategy makes room for other outer gods to act and shape events without an overall framework that reduces them to total chaos or self-destructive conflict. The greater will does not destroy its competitors. Rather, it produces conditions under which their power can be directed in ways that benefit greater cosmic stability. The implications of this examination for understanding interdivine relations are significant. If the greater will, though seated in a position of authority, repeatedly opts for cooperation and integration rather than conquest and extermination, then this implies that the cosmic beings of the world of Elden Ring are subject to principles that prefer synthesis and cooperation even when they are capable of expressing their will autocratically. The greater will's case shows that cosmic beings can have their own distinct individuality and pursue their specific agendas while at the same time having a part in greater cooperative systems. Its interaction with other outer gods implies a pattern of divine cooperation based on negotiation, accommodation, and mutual gain rather than zero-sum game of competing for scarce resources. The rebels and rivals, while the greater will carved out its dominance via integration and methodical rule, other outer gods took their efforts at cosmic power in decidedly different directions, establishing what would seem an elaborate ecosystem of divine competition. But even amongst these seeming rebels and competitors, there are patterns that imply relations far more complicated than mere hostility. The frenzied flame is arguably the most explicit philosophical adversary of the greater will's vision. Its core purpose to consume all of existence and restore everything to the singularity of the one great is an express rejection of the varied, ordered reality that the greater will has taken millennia to build and preserve. But the interaction between these cosmic powers unveiled intriguing nuances that confound literal explanations of cosmic warfare. The three fingers, the frenzied flame's main agents in the lands between, work alongside the two fingers instead of against them. Both entities convey cosmic will to earthly proxies. Both offer advice and strength to those who yearn for it. And both honor individual choice, even when the choice may be against their own short-term interests. The fact that they are two halves of what used to be an entire hand implies an intimate relation more than an alienation at a fundamental level. The frenzied flame's power expresses itself differently than other outer god power. Instead of operating through vested institutions or religious orders, it works through personal revelation and personal change. Those who come into contact with the frenzied flame receive direct cosmic awareness instead of mediated divine teaching. This methodology is indicative of an entity that prioritizes unmediated, unscripted experience over indoctrination. Persecution of practitioners of the frenzied flame by the Golden Order is one of the most obvious examples of infighting among differing divine factions. The entombment of the nomadic merchants under Leyndell and their subsequent transmutation into servants of the frenzied flame illustrates how cosmic rivalry can bring about catastrophic harm to mortal life torn asunder by conflicting powers. Even this persecution, however, testifies to underlying motivations. The forces of the greater will did not merely exterminate the merchants. Rather, they attempted to quarantine and confine the spread of the frenzied flame's power while maintaining the potential for personal decision. The fact that Meek Ella's needle exists as a means of defying the frenzied flame implies that the cosmic order contains mechanisms for safeguarding individual agency, even against the will of the gods. The god of scarlet rot is an alternate model for cosmic rebellion, one of transformation and rebirth rather than unity by destruction. The influence of this entity is such that it extends through biological and environmental change, bringing about new life and consciousness instead of destroying the old. Such is the decay-rebirth dynamic that defines the scarlet rot, implying a cosmic principle favoring change and development above stability and conservation. The sealing of the god of scarlet rot at the hands of a blind swordsman is another case in point of how cosmic conflicts are waged in this universe. Instead of annihilating this being completely, the response was limitation and containment. The scarlet rot god continues to exist under the lake of rot, shaping things and gaining disciples, but its power to reshape reality on a grand scale has been restricted. Melania's experience with the scarlet rot illustrates how cosmic beings can have an effect on people without overwhelming their individual agency completely. Even though she was born as a vessel for this outer god's power, Melania retains her personal identity, personal relationships, and freedom of choice. Her self-control over unleashing the full potential of the scarlet rot until her last resort fight with Error Dawn indicates that divine power acts through negotiation with personal will instead of straightforward possession. The ability of Meek Ella to craft devices to repel the scarlet rot's presence while attempting to cure his sister shows that cosmic forces in this world can be researched, comprehended, and defeated using adequate knowledge and expertise. This implies that outer gods are governed by principles that can be discovered instead of random divine whim. The Formless Mother offers still another cosmic model, one founded on the creation of specific emotional and physical states rather than wholesale environmental change. The form's linkage to blood, wounds, and pain points to a cosmic principle that values suffering and sacrifice over security and comfort. Morg's dedication to the Formless Mother shows that it is possible for cosmic beings to offer purpose and significance to individuals who are otherwise marginalized from mainstream divine attention. The Omen, shunned by the Golden Order, gained acceptance and power through this non-traditional divine bond. This suggests that other outer gods fulfill other spiritual and psychological functions instead of merely competing for the same amount of followers. The dynamic between the Formless Mother and the Blood Fiend tribes under the shadow of the Ord Tree expansion demonstrates how cosmic influence can carry over from one region to another and one culture to another. These creatures, positioned away from the central strife of the lands between, have their own relationship with this outer god and build upon their own cultural rituals and interpretations of divine purpose. The nuance of Morg being manipulated by Mikola creates another level of depth in our knowledge of how varying cosmic forces interact. That Mikola was able to enchant a fervent servant of another outer god implies that divine allegiance is less absolute than it seems, or that various cosmic powers may collaborate on levels that are not immediately apparent to their mortal agents. The different beings connected with death, the god of the twin bird, the glom-eyed queen, and the force behind destined death, are possibly the most intricate web of divine interrelation. Instead of one cosmic power controlling death, several beings appear to have disparate domains of influence in this existential building block. The Deathbirds and Ghost Flame are an archaic method of death that predate the existing cosmic framework. Their persistence in conjunction with the greater will's system of death management implies that several models of death can coexist instead of one necessarily displacing the others. The employment of Ghost Flame by other enemies and the continuity of ancient death rituals show that previous cosmic forces continue to exert influence even as newer ones have become dominant. The association of the glom-eyed queen with the Godskin apostles and their wielding of destined death is a greater threat to the existing order. This entity's clear mission of assassinating gods themselves indicates a cosmic force that prefers mortality and transformation over immortality and stagnation. The detail that this power was conquered and sealed as opposed to completely destroyed follows the trend we've seen with other cosmic wars. The interaction between various death-related beings gets even more complicated when we discuss the Night's Tide and Outer God of Night referenced in Elden Ring Nightrain. The connection between night, death, and the manipulation of fate points to a web of connected cosmic forces that could be working together in spite of any surface-level differences in approach and methodology. The different moon entities, the full moon, dark moon, and twin moons, offer a different model of cosmic partnership, one that implies potential cooperation between similar entities. Instead of vying for the same scope of influence, these cosmically powered forces appear to embody distinct facets of stellar and celestial power that can exist harmoniously and even supplement each other. Renella's experience with the full moon and her eventual learning of full moon sorceries show how cosmic beings can empower persons without requiring sole allegiance. The ongoing existence of the Academy of Raya Lucaria under several cosmic influences indicates that intellectual endeavor and magical study would be served by varied divine affiliations instead of being bound by theological conformity. Roni's alliance with the Dark Moon indicates how cosmic forces can operate through one person to bring about ends that may not be as obvious. The Dark Moon's leadership to an age of stars is a vision for the long term that demands planning and coordination over time rather than action now. That implies cosmic beings capable of strategic thinking and laboring to reach goals that could take generations to arrive. Twin moons of R'Lana, in the shadow of the Ord Tree expansion, illustrate how cosmic forces can be synthesized or mixed instead of necessarily picking among various alternatives. The phrase, ever together, used to describe moon and fire implies that cosmic entities are able to form associations or partnerships that strengthen instead of weakening each entity. What does come out of this roll call of seeming rebels and foes is a vision of cosmic diversity that seems to exist to serve various aspects of being rather than to compete for domination. Every outer god seems to have specific roles or needs that others cannot completely meet. The frenzied flame exists for those seeking escape from pain through unity. The scarlet rot is for those who believe in change and rebirth. The formless mother is for those who believe in hardship and sacrifice. The different death-related entities are for different models of mortality and passage. Instead of being representative of fundamental opposition, these different cosmic strategies may be reflective of a subtle division of labor among beings that arose out of a common primordial source. Their apparent competition might actually be a complex form of cooperation designed to ensure that all aspects of existence receive appropriate divine attention and support. The persistence of multiple cosmic influences, despite the greater will's dominance, suggests a universe that benefits from diversity rather than uniformity. The reality that these beings can be analyzed, comprehended, and even repelled by a wealth of knowledge and expertise suggests that they are working under consistent principles as opposed to capricious divine fiat. This comprehension of rebel and competitor outer gods as specialized as opposed to merely oppositional beings is critical context for comprehending their relations to one another and to the prevailing cosmic order. Their interactions may be more accurately described as multifaceted bargains between various facets of divine awareness than as mere conflict between mutually opposed enemies. The subtle influences. Beyond the principal cosmic forces that fill the history of Elden Ring, there is a range of more subtle divine forces at work throughout the lands between, creating networks of association that imply an intricate tapestry of cosmic cooperation rather than uncomplicated rivalry. These entities work through environmental transformation, cultural influence, and gradual psychological change rather than dramatic divine intervention, yet their collective impact on the world may be as significant as that of their more prominent cousins. The entities associated with celestial bodies and stellar phenomena represent perhaps the most sophisticated network of cosmic cooperation in the entire mythology. The differing moons, full, dark, and twin, as well as the ancient current of the stars, illustrate how celestial forces are able to retain individual identities while contributing to larger cooperative frameworks. The relationship of full moon to Ranala and the Academy of Raya Lucaria created a paradigm of god-man cooperation that was based upon learning, development, and the cultivation of human potential instead of mere worship and obedience. The sorceries that resulted from this alliance do not merely tap raw divine energy. Rather, they are advanced methods of comprehending and controlling the underlying forces that shape reality. The Academy's model for magical study illustrates how cosmic influence can augment instead of limiting intellectual advancement. The glintstone magic formed by research on falling stars offers methods for pursuing inquiry into reality itself, implying that certain cosmic beings actively aid mortal endeavors in knowing the universe without requiring blind belief and unthinking obedience. The interaction of the dark moon with Roni demonstrates an even more intricate divine-mortal collaboration model. Instead of offering direct power or instant solutions, the dark moon is a guide towards the understanding of cosmic principles that can be accessed through personal effort and rationality. Roni's evolution from pupil to agent to would-be heir of this cosmic force implies a mentorship-based relationship instead of domination. The Age of Stars, one that Roni brings to a conclusion, is perhaps the most extreme reshaping of cosmic order offered by the game. It does this, however, through insidious influence rather than spectacular conquest. The Dark Moon's conception of the universe as unpredictable and orchestrated through human decision-making over divine fiat embodies a mature appreciation for how the forces of the cosmos can be applied so as to augment rather than supplant human agency. The two moons aligned with R'Lana in the shadow of the Erdtree expansion illustrate how celestial beings can enter into cooperative relationships with each other, as with mortal actors. The fact that they are described as nestled against each other implies a close cooperative relationship over competitive coexistence. The fact that they may be mixed with fire magic shows a readiness to cooperate with other cosmic powers and not demand exclusive areas of influence. The original flow of the stars is an even more subtle manifestation of cosmic power, one that works through natural laws governing magical and physical events rather than through direct divine action. The study of this force by the astrologer contributed to the creation of elaborate theoretical systems for comprehending reality, proposing a cosmic being that can be made known through investigation and analysis but not revelation and faith. The interrelation of stellar magic and dragon cult demonstrates surprising points of contact between supposedly disparate cosmic forces. The existence of some sorceries that synthesize features of both traditions implies that cosmic forces may cross-fertilize and augment each other instead of fighting for devotion. The coexistence of both magical traditions within the Golden Order demonstrates that cosmic variety can be preserved even under concerted political control. The forces of death and change act through equally insidious means, changing cultural patterns and human awareness and not forcing dramatic shifts in the environment. The twin bird god and its surrounding death birds embody an ancient understanding of mortality based on natural cycles and spiritual change instead of preserving life or halting decomposition. The ghost flame of these beings performs various roles to that of other cosmic forces fire. Instead of generating warmth, illumination, or destructive capability, ghost flame allows for transition between various states of being. Its application in ancient death ceremonies indicates a cosmic being that acts as a guide through basic transformations instead of a power source for temporal applications. The fact that these old death practices coexisted with more recent mortality methods shows how cosmic forces are able to coexist over varying periods of time instead of directly replacing each other. The existence of death birds and the continued presence of ghost flame-based magic shows that there is more than one approach to basic questions of existence within the cosmic order. The glom-eyed queen and her godskin apostles who are linked to her signifies a more active form of cosmic influence in death, but one that continues to work in the main through cultural change rather than environmental control. The creation of methods for gods to be hunted and killed implies a cosmic force that prefers change and rebirth to stability and conservation, but one that acts through trained intermediaries rather than immediate intervention. The black flame itself in this tradition is a means to primitive transformation, not mere destruction. Its power to demote divine entities to mortality indicates that there is a cosmic principle against the concentration of power and immortality in certain beings or entities. This is a kind of balance keeping in the cosmos and not mere opposition to certain divine factions. The continued existence and transmissibility of black flame techniques despite the seeming defeat of the glom-eyed queen shows that cosmic forces may survive the destruction of their main agents. This implies that these beings work based on precepts and techniques that are transmissible and developable than relying solely on explicit divine presence. The blood star and the related thorn magics are possibly the most esoteric type of subtle cosmic force. Such beings operate by controlling psychological and emotional states and not by affecting physical change or mental growth. This correspondence of blood, thorns, and blindness indicates a cosmic factor that values suffering and sacrifice as a means of wisdom and empowerment. The creation of aberrant sorceries by criminals and outcasts suggests that there are cosmic influences that cater exclusively to the rejected members of society. The blood star's commandment to reject all that is and harm all that is a cosmic reaction to abandonment and isolation, not merely an appetite for destruction. This implies divine beings that respond to psychological and spiritual demands that other cosmic energies fail to satisfy. The mutual focus on blood shared by thorn sorceries and the formless mother has caused many to make guesses regarding interrelationship between these cosmic forces, but the nature of any such relationship is as yet unknown. What can be known is that both traditions place significance in blood and wounding, indicating a potential for overlapping domains of influence instead of mutually exclusive ones. Fell God's relationship with fire giants and its subsequent incorporation into fire monk practices provides perhaps the best expression of how insidious cosmic forces can be incorporated and remade instead of simply destroyed. The persistence of giants' flame incantations in the Golden Order illustrates how cosmic forces can sustain their fundamental nature while fitting themselves into different political and religious situations. The Fell God's identification with creative power through the Giant's Forge shows the way that beings that seem to pose a threat can become vital for cosmic functions. The fire which can consume the Earth Tree is the same fire that allows powerful weapons and tools to be made. The dual nature implies cosmic beings that are necessary destructive and creative principles and not merely forces of opposition or chaos. The ongoing nature of the Fell God's influence, even as the entity itself seems to die, shows how cosmic forces can persist by acting through the techniques and principles they set up instead of needing continuous direct presence of their divine agents. The continued role of the fire giant as guardian of the flame shows that cosmic relationships may outlast the seeming death or defeat of primary divine agents. The application of Fell God techniques into fire monk rituals demonstrates the way cosmic energies may be tamed and directed without diminishing their fundamental power. That fire monks are able to employ these techniques for the benefit of the Golden Order indicates that cosmic cooperation is possible even between parties formerly engaged in open conflict. The subtle character of these cosmic influences implies a universe in which divine power works most often by inspiration, education, and slow change rather than spectacular intervention and sudden change. These beings clearly realize that effective influence depends on willing cooperation from mortal agencies rather than mere compulsion or excessive might. The intricate network of relationships among these subtle cosmic forces implies a measure of coordination and cooperation that goes beyond mere competition for influence or resources. Their capacity to collaborate without losing their distinct identities implies a highly developed sense of how diversity can be used to serve greater cosmic ends. This precedent of subtle cooperation and compadre relationship is essential to the background of understanding how the more powerful cosmic forces would also cooperate with each other in spite of their seeming conflicts. Since even comparably lesser divine powers are able to have complex cooperative relationships, there is a strong likelihood that major cosmic powers would also find a way to coordinate activities to mutual advantage. Evidence of competition. Whereas the patterns of integration and cooperation abound throughout Elden Ring's cosmic mythology, there is also strong evidence for real competition and conflict between outer gods. These range from direct war and overt suppression to more latent forms of competition and theological opposition. It is essential to understand these competitive dynamics in order to build a full understanding of interdivine relations. The war against the giants is the most dramatic instance of direct military action between various cosmic factions. This was not merely a political war between nations, it was a theological one between mutually incompatible visions of cosmic order. The forces of the Greater will endeavor to eradicate the influence of the fell god in its entirety, perceiving the giant's flame as an existential menace to the Erd Tree and the wider Golden Order. The extent and severity of this war point to serious cosmic enmity as opposed to simple political disagreement. The virtual eradication of the fire giants, the intentional destruction of their culture, and the continued repression of their religious practices reveal a level of bitterness beyond ordinary competitive competition. He Greater Will's armies didn't aim to assimilate or convert the giants, but to eradicate them as a force of cosmic influence altogether. The cursing of the final fire giant to be eternal guardian of the flame is a specifically merciless expression of cosmic mastery. Instead of just removing the fell god's influence entirely, the Greater will compel its old adversary to become a living reminder of loss while still holding the very power which threatened the Golden Order. As remembered by the fire giant, this curse had doomed the giants to be keepers of the flame for all of time, although they were freed of this isolated curse by their defeat in war. The enclosing of the flame instead of extinguishing it shows that even in triumph, the Greater Will did accept that there were boundaries to its influence over other cosmic forces. The prediction that sooner or later this flame would burn, the UR tree implies that cosmic struggles bring long-term results which can't be fully dictated even by triumphant powers. The Greater Will's failure to eradicate permanently this threat proves that cosmic rivalry is between beings of approximately equivalent final power. Treating fire monks as custodians of the closed flame shows how cosmic war can build intricate allegiance and psychological tensions. These slaves of the Golden Order were charged with holding at bay the very energy that their theological foes had exercised, but they came gradually to be captivated and shaped by the power they were supposed to stifle. This is a manifestation of cosmic subversion that unfolds through extension rather than spectacular conversion. The oppression of those who worship the frenzied flame is yet another obvious instance of active cosmic competition. The entombment of the nomadic traders under Lindale and their subsequent conversion into agents of madness serves to illustrate that cosmic struggles can wreak havoc upon mortal entities trapped between contending forces. The forces of the Greater Will did not just exile or convert these traders, they tried to destroy them as possible conduits for antagonistic cosmic influence. The evolution of the three fingers as a separate entity against the two fingers implies that fragmentation on the cosmic level is possible even within initially consolidated powers. The consideration that such entities are halves of a whole hand implies that cosmic rivalry is generated by internal conflicts rather than external ones. This trend implies that competition between cosmic powers could be a natural byproduct of the shattering process that gave rise to the present cycle. The Golden Order's aggressive suppression of information regarding the wild flame indicates how cosmic competition can branch out into informational warfare. The labeling of seers who predict the burning of the Erd Tree as heretics means that the Greater Will is aware that ideas and revelations have the ability to dispel its authority. It implies cosmic powers that realize the need to control interpretation and narrative as well as brute force. The god of scarlet rot's sealing under the lake of rot is another instance of cosmic containment, not elimination. The circumstance that this one was actively suppressed by a blind swordsman implies that it was a real threat to the established cosmic balance. The continued impact of the scarlet rot, beyond this sealing, shows that cosmic competition entails beings that cannot be beaten once and for all by conventional means. How millennia interact with the god of scarlet rot demonstrates how cosmic competition may operate through unwilling surrogates. Birth of the millennia as a vessel for this power's entity built an ongoing challenge to the Golden Order that was present within the very family of its chief representative. This implies cosmic entities that can secure lasting strategic positions even when they do not hold immediate power to challenge dominant forces directly. The necessity for Meek Ella to learn specialized methods of resisting the Scarlet Rot's influence proves that cosmic competition is between beings with alternative but incompatible ways of being. The Scarlet Rot's focus on rot and change is inherently incompatible with the Golden Order's desire for stability and preservation. These are not alternative ways of getting the same thing done. They are incompatible visions of what the world should be. The denial of fated death and its elimination from the Elden Ring is indicative of another type of cosmic rivalry founded on theological and philosophical contest. The ability to slay gods themselves is a contest to divine permanence and authority that gods themselves usually assert. The Glom-eyed Queen's seeming application of said ability to kill other divine entities indicates cosmic competition that would challenge the very lives of existing entities. The defeat and burial of the Glom-eyed Queen by Malekith illustrates how cosmic competition can take the form of direct conflict between the divine champions, but not the divinities themselves. This theme of proxy warfare recurs throughout the mythology, which implies that cosmic beings are aware of the dangers of direct conflict and seek to work through agents who can be sacrificed without harming their own existence. The fact that black flame techniques remain available despite their patron's defeat shows that cosmic competition can be more about the theft or hijacking of opposing powers than mere elimination. The fact that these techniques can be mastered and employed by others implies that cosmic beings can't retain sole authority over their defining abilities once those abilities have been circulated in the world. The intricate dynamic between various death entities explains how cosmic competition can be realized within intersecting spheres of power. The god of the twin bird, the Glom-eyed Queen, and the force of destined death all work in the broad category of mortality, yet they appear to embody distinct and possibly antagonistic strategies for death and transformation. The eclipse ritual in Castle Soul illustrates how cosmic competition may include attempts at reviving or reviving defeated beings. Michaela's attempt to revive Godwin's soul back to his body is a challenge to the prevailing death management system that might have disrupted the balance of power between various cosmic forces. That the ritual failed indicates that established cosmic entities may be able to protect their domains of control from attempts at revival. The Golden Order's persecution of Omen is a demonstration of cosmic competition wherein competition is about suppressing individuals who could become vessels for other divine influences that may compete with the dominant forces. The Omen's association with the primordial crucible and their utility to those like the Formless Mother are a threat to Golden Order stability even when Omen are not actively working against the established system. The interaction between various sorcery traditions unveils competitive forces across the academic and intellectual fields. Golden Order fundamentalism's dominance across other magic types embodies a pursuit to dominate how cosmos are researched and interpreted. The existence of other traditions in the Academy of Raya Lucaria indicates opposition to this academic monopoly. The persecution of errant sorcerers and their banishment to the mountain peaks illustrates how cosmic rivalry can entail the suppression of different methods of magical inquiry. Such scholars' discovery of sorceries that involve blood signifies the emergence of methodologies that defy established magical orthodoxy. Such persecution is a sign that cosmic powers sense the danger posed by unbridled magical experimentation. The Hornsons' opposition to Mesmer's crusade in the shadow of the Erdtree expansion illustrates the way that cosmic competition can take the form of the conflict between various cultural and religious traditions. The Hornsons' traditions, which combined elements of various cosmic influences, were a threat to the Golden Order's assertions of universal dominance. The brutal repression of their civilization illustrates the way that cosmic competition can lead to attempted cultural genocide. The intricate dynamics of Mesmer and his serpentine essence imply that cosmic rivalry can take place within single individuals as well as among various groups. The entombing of the base serpent in Mesmer implies that cosmic entities can be trapped inside other beings as a method of confinement. This is an advanced type of cosmic rivalry that entails psychological and spiritual battles as opposed to mere physical combat. The proof of actual competition among outer gods shows that these beings actually have competing agendas and incompatible aims that cannot always be settled by compromise or negotiation. The scope and vigor of some of the contests indicate that cosmic beings are capable of actual hostility and reciprocally antagonistic behavior rather than mere professional competition. But the trends of containment, sealing, and suppression instead of total annihilation point to the fact that even in intense conflict, cosmic beings acknowledge boundaries to their power and the risks of trying to eradicate totally their competitors. The continuation of competing influences even in what appears to be defeat means that cosmic competition is within boundaries that do not allow absolute triumph for any particular being. This demonstration of actual competition is vital counterpoint to the cooperation and integration patterns we've seen elsewhere. The cosmic powers of Elden Ring plainly are able to collaborate and conflict, and so demonstrate a dynamic political and theological situation in which alliances can fluctuate according to situation, purpose, and possibility rather than being in fixed patterns of association or opposition. Evidence of cooperation. In addition to the overwhelming evidence of competition and conflict among the outer gods, there are equally strong patterns of cooperation, synthesis, and reciprocity found throughout Elden Ring's cosmological mythology. These cooperative relationships imply that the putative conflicts we've witnessed are perhaps merely one facet of far more intricate interdivine relationships. The union of Radagon and Ranella forged a temporary yet strong alliance between the Golden Order and the power of the full moon. The union, which took place during or after the Leonian Wars between the Golden Order and the Academy of Ria Lucaria, was real theological synthesis that opened new horizons of possibility for both cosmic traditions instead of mere political accommodation. The union had 3 kids, Rani, who has been confirmed to be an Empyrean, Radon, and Ryakad, all of whom showed abilities that took a little from both cosmic traditions. Rani's ability to wield both sorcery and divine authority, Eridans,